Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we'll be looking at two potential strikers coming into Old Trafford. One maybe in January, one maybe in the summer. We'll get into all that. Also, who could be Erik ten Hag's replacement? A big name in Germany is being linked with it. And also, Pep Guardiola throwing a bit of shade at Manchester United. Let's get into it. Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and the weather, it's pretty cold, so make sure you've got your parkers on. Loads of stories to get through this morning. Before I get to them though, make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe to the channel. We want to get to 750,000 subscribers, and with your support, yes you, we can get there. Right, I'm going to talk a little bit about Pep Guardiola and what he was saying about Manchester United and the appointment of Berrada. He's been thrown a little bit of shade, but before we get to that, there's a couple of other stories as well I want to mention. We'll talk about potential incomings, we'll talk about Toney, and we'll talk about also Calum Wilson, who's been linked with the club as well. One's a summer move, one's a January move, so we'll get to all them a bit later anyway. But let's start with Pep Guardiola. Let's talk a little bit about Pep Guardiola and what he's been saying about Manchester United, because Berrada obviously is coming in as the new CEO of the club, leaving Manchester City. This was announced last week. Yeah, seems like a positive move. Don't know loads about him, but when I've looked online, checked out his CV, he's definitely coming from a football background. Had success at City, had success, I think he was at Barcelona before that. Certainly a football person, which at Manchester United is quite a rarity, isn't it? Someone from a footballing background coming into a football role. We've had the likes of Ed Woodward and I think Richard Arnold before, coming from different fields. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. Pep Guardiola, speaking ahead of City's game with Spurs in the FA Cup, was asked about it or spoke about it, and he was a little bit, I don't know, maybe a little bit patronising about it all. He sort of said that basically that we're not getting Erling Haaland, we're not getting Kevin De Bruyne, so it's not like this is it, you know, the sort of the wheels are coming off at Manchester City. He also said that if Berrada can turn things around here, then basically we should build a stand for him, because such is the task at hand. So a lot of the papers are running with this. It's on the back pages, saying it's about Pep firing shots at United and criticising United and calling United delusional and all the rest of it. Well, there's a little bit of truth to that in what he's saying. You can see he's being a little bit shady, but also he's talking a bit of sense here. I don't think we can say now we've got Berrada, that's it, Manchester United are going to turn things around and we're going to win the treble next season. But I don't think anyone's saying that. I don't think United fans think that. It's just a step in the right direction. That's the positive aspect of this, is the fact that Berrada is coming here with that pedigree, with that experience, with that knowledge of the job at hand, into a role that suits him, a role that perhaps he would have eventually done at Manchester City. So he's coming here to do that as a new CEO. It makes a lot of sense. So I think Pep Guardiola did compliment him as well and said he had a hug and stuff, and when he saw him. So I don't think he's being too moody about it. But from a City point of view, they're probably disappointed to see him leave. If you've got someone who's been successful at your club and he's been, part of the reason you've had all these trophy wins and signed these players, I know I'm not saying he's the main reason or anything like that, but he has played his part in it, and he's leaving you to go to one of your rivals down the road. And let's not pretend that City don't care about Manchester United. It doesn't matter whether United are finishing 7th or 2nd or 1st. It doesn't matter. City will always be bothered about what goes on here. You can just see from the reactions to anything that goes on at United that they do care. So it's not like they're going to be like, oh, well, it doesn't matter, he's gone to United, what did he do? It's obviously something that's bothered them. I wouldn't use the term rattle, but I think it has obviously affected them. Looking at it, not too impressed with it, but it's not the end of the world. And like Pep Guardiola says, to give him his credit, even though I don't like doing that, it's not like we've signed their two best players. We've signed someone who's an important cog in the City wheel. Whether he's a success at Manchester United remains to be seen, but I like what I'm seeing from Ineos and the way they've gone about their business. They're making the right noises in terms of speaking to the fans, meeting with the fans. They're making the right noises in terms of some of these appointments and the way that they're conducting themselves. So far, it's been good. It's been a couple of easy wins, to be honest with you, just in terms of like meeting the fans and saying the right things. But the fact they're putting football at the front of things instead of commercial deals seems to be a move in the right direction. Let us know what you think about that in the comments. Talk a little bit about Toney. There was a report I think it's in the Metro, that Manchester United could be in for Toney in the summer. They've ran with this because of a paragraph in, I think it was Laurie Whitwell's article in The Athletic yesterday, when he was talking about Manchester United strikers and Andy Martial, and he mentioned that United are sort of looking at Toney, keeping tabs on him, monitoring, whatever you want to call it. The Metro ran with that. Obviously, Toney wants to leave Brentford. He made that clear, didn't he? He sort of said it as soon as he came back from his ban. Scored on his return to football. He's sought after in it because of the season he had last season. Was it 20 Premier League goals last season? I think it was, something like that. strikers who can score in the Premier League are in short commodity. He's obviously in demand. Arsenal have been linked with him. I think Chelsea has also been linked with him, and now Manchester United. Remains to be seen whether he's going to come into Old Trafford or not. I'm a bit sceptical. I think it's going to cost a lot of money. I think, what is he now? He's not a kid, is he? He's about 27, 28, something like that. He's still got a few years left in him. I'm not saying he's past it or anything like that, but it's going to cost quite a bit of money, and you've got other clubs that are interested in him. We'll have to wait and see what happens. We're hearing from Ineos or the reports are that we're not going to go with these huge deals and these huge wages, and he can probably get Brentford can get big money for him, and he can get big wages elsewhere. So whether he comes to Manchester United remains to be seen. As always, if we hear anything else on that, we will keep you posted, and by all means get involved in the chat again in the comments and let us know what you think about a potential summer move for Ivan Toney. Talk about the January window. We've been linked with Calum Wilson. This has been doing the rounds. A couple of papers have ran with this. Have had this. I think the Evening Standard had it, and a couple of other newspapers are saying it as well. That he could be available from Newcastle for 18 million this January because they need to balance their books. Are Manchester United going to go for him though? Have we got 18 million this window? I'd have him. I think he's a little bit injury prone, if we're being brutally honest, but he's a decent striker. I think his record is something like 46 goals in 102 games or something like that at Newcastle, which is a good return, but it's the injury thing that worries me slightly, and I'll be honest, I don't think we've got even 18 million to spend in this window, so I'd be very, very surprised if that one happens. Plus, are you going to bring in someone who, like I said earlier, has questionable injuries if you need him to replace a striker in Anthony Martial who's always injured? I don't know. Let me know what you think of that one, but the likelihood is it ain't going to happen, so it's all a bit of a moot point. Another story that I saw this morning, Christian Falk tweeted this, I think it's from Caught Offside, saying that Thomas Tuchel could be a potential successor to Erik Ten Hag. Now, the gist of this was Tuchel made some remarks about his time in England. Now it's almost preferable to his time in Germany. Also, the fact that Bayern Munich, there's a little bit of pressure on Thomas Tuchel there. The 4 points behind Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga, and that's not the end of the world. There's a lot of football left to play. They can still turn it around. I think they're out of the German Cup, though. They're still in the Champions League. But if they were to do the unthinkable and not win the Bundesliga, then that might be a scenario where Bayern Munich were looking at Tuchel going, you're not the manager that we thought you were. And United would be like, well, we'll still have you, because you've won a Champions League, you've had success at Dortmund as well, and you've been a much sought after manager for quite a lot of time. So if Erik Ten Hag is given his marching orders, and I know there's lots of ifs and buts and maybes in that scenario, then perhaps Thomas Tuchel could end up coming here at Old Trafford and doing a job. I mean, I don't want to get carried away with like Erik Ten Hag's replacement and all the rest of it. We don't know what is going to happen with Erik Ten Hag yet. A lot depends, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, on how he does between now and the end of the season, and then Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Dave Brailsford and Omar Berrada and whoever else can take stock and go, okay, let's have a look at, yeah, that's good enough, or no, he's got to move on. But Thomas Tuchel, if he was available and if he was willing to leave Bayern Munich, would probably be a pretty decent alternative to Erik Ten Hag. Let us know what you think about it. Do you see it happening? Would you have him at Old Trafford? I'm going to leave it there. Loads of stuff coming up on the channel later on. Make sure you are subscribing. We're going to be back this evening, or this afternoon I should say, with The Brew, myself and Stephen Howson, with a couple of guests. There's going to be 4 of us on it today, so you don't want to miss out on that. Hit that subscribe button. I've been Jay Motti outside a pretty cold Old Trafford. Thanks for watching.